Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching your evening operational briefing for April 1st, 2026, and today is not a joke. This is one of the most operationally significant days the front has seen since November 2025. 10 directions moving simultaneously. Russian forces entering the Great Sumy Forest, the corridor that leads directly to Sumy city. A flag raised in the center of Ternuvate. Verkhnya Pisarivka confirmed. The assault on the Great Siversky Donetsk forest underway. A state border crossing near Bachevsk. Kupiansk corrections on 2 sectors simultaneously. And in the skies, 339 drones documented by 8 a.m., with more waves continuing through the day all the way to Lutsk in the far northwest, where a major logistics terminal was struck. The operational picture today is not a series of isolated events. It is a coordinated push, air and ground, north to south, timed to seize forest corridors before spring foliage closes the window for aerial observation. What happens in the next 2 to 3 weeks in those forests will define the operational balance for the entire summer campaign. A full breakdown of every active sector. Let us get into it. April 1st, 2026 will enter the operational history of the conflict as one of the most event-dense days in terms of simultaneous changes along the line of contact. A large volume of map corrections is being recorded across multiple directions simultaneously, from Sumy Oblast in the north to the Zaporizhzhia sector in the south. Russian units have transitioned to large-scale offensive operations along the entire front line, and the scale of the shifts is comparable to what was observed in November 2025. In parallel, the Russian side conducted one of the largest drone strikes of the entire conflict period. Based on data available as of 8 a.m. alone, the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense recorded 339 drones. Strikes did not stop after that report was published. Additional waves continued arriving throughout the day, primarily in the western direction. The final daily figure will be substantially higher. The overnight strike campaign of April 1st differs from previous ones in its fundamentally different geography and tactical scheme. The Russian side employed a sequential multi-wave structure in which each wave exploited the air defense degradation caused by the preceding one. The first drone group departed from the southern areas of Kherson Oblast and Crimea, entering the Kryvyi Rih area. The Ukrainian air defense system engaged but was unable to fully contain the swarm. A significant portion of the drones broke through and moved northwest, effectively mapping air defense positions and partially suppressing them. The second, larger group, between 50 and 70 units, followed the same route with a time interval, moving along the already cleared corridor. The combined mass of both groups reached western Ukraine. The main documented strike target was logistics infrastructure in Lutsk. A Nova Pochta distribution terminal was struck. A major hub likely involved in military logistics. Published footage documents a large-scale fire and columns of black smoke over the facility. Strikes were also recorded in the Khmelnytsky area. After the main drone mass was exhausted over western Ukraine, a third wave of approximately 70 units was launched, this time along the Transnistrian border, aiming even further west toward Ivano-Frankivsk Oblast. In parallel, separate swarms were recorded moving along the Belarusian border toward Kiev. The overall tactical concept of the strike, not a single mass raid, but sequential waves, each exploiting the resource depletion of the air defense system caused by the previous one. This is a systemic evolution of tactics that significantly complicates the task of the defending side. On the Sumy direction, the past 24 hours produced changes that in their strategic significance exceed anything recorded on this sector since the beginning of the year. Russian units have begun filtering into the Great Sumy Forest, a forest massif stretching from the state border practically to the city of Sumy itself. It is through this forest corridor that the main strike toward the oblast capital is apparently being planned. The significance of this maneuver is determined by 2 factors. The forest provides concealed movement, protection from FPV operators, and the ability for deep flanking envelopment of Ukrainian positions. Dislodging an adversary consolidated in forest terrain is incomparably more difficult than stopping them in open ground. The spring foliage arriving in the coming weeks will make this factor even more consequential. In Kondratovka, Russian units control approximately 50% of the settlement, with fighting continuing. In the Mala-Korchakovka area, captured the previous day, Russian forces have again improved positions. Expansion is being recorded in the southward direction. In the Myropilya area, neutral mapping resources have confirmed the advance that Russian sources had been reporting for several days. The map has been corrected accordingly. In the forest massif south of Ryazan, Russian units have consolidated a foothold, according to pro-Russian analysts. This means southward movement combined with simultaneous eastern pressure. Fighting directly inside the settlement should be expected in April. On the northern flank of Sumy Oblast, a fundamentally important episode has been recorded. According to multiple neutral analysts, Russian units have crossed the Ukrainian state border in the area of the Pokrovsk road crossing. Movement is underway from the direction of Sopich along the M02 highway toward Bashevsk and beyond that toward Hlukiv. The operational logic of this maneuver is clear. It is precisely from the northeastern part of Ukraine that the Ukrainian side has been conducting the most damaging strikes deep into Russian territory over recent months. The establishment of a security zone in this area is one of the priority tasks directly linked to protecting strategic infrastructure. On the Kharkiv direction, April 1st recorded several simultaneous advances, forming a unified operational picture of envelopment. Verkhnya Pisarivka has been officially confirmed as having passed under Russian control. This is consistently reflected by the Russian MOD, the northern grouping, and neutral mapping resources. The advance along the Siversky Donets on this sector creates a threat to the left flank of the Ukrainian grouping. Russian units have begun the assault on the Great Siversky Donetsk Forest, a massif located between the Vovchansk bridgehead and the most remote northeastern part of Kharkiv Oblast. This massif was subjected to systematic aviation strikes and thermobaric system engagement throughout January through March. Russian forces are now consolidating on the forest's outskirts and developing the offensive inside. The significance of this forest is analogous to the Sumy forest. Control over it opens the ability to maneuver against the flanks and rear of Ukrainian positions. In the areas of Ambane and Hryhorivka, the map has been corrected to reflect advances on this sector. The threat to Ambane from the northern direction is intensifying. In Kupiansk, both sides published footage from the northwestern and southwestern parts of the city. Ukrainian sources documented artillery strikes against Russian positions in the ruins of the settlement. The map has been corrected for both sectors. The Russian army continues the methodical recovery of positions lost during the winter Ukrainian counteroffensive. A separate event is the official Russian Ministry of Defense announcement of the conclusion of the battle for the Luhansk region. This is not the first such announcement. A similar one was made in 2022, but subsequently, part of the settlements of western Luhansk region were lost during the Kharkiv counteroffensive. Today's announcement is accompanied by the corresponding map correction. On the Zaporizhzhia direction, two fundamental events have been recorded. The first, according to the East grouping and affiliated sources, Russian units succeeded in substantially improving positions in the Boykivka area. The map has been corrected. As a reminder, the passage of Boykivka under control was announced the previous day. Today's data expands the picture of advance in this sector. The second, in Ternuvate, Russian units raised a flag in the central part of the settlement. The geolocated episode has been confirmed. This was preceded by a series of Ukrainian counterattacks with armored vehicles, all of which were repelled. Following their repulsion, Russian forces transitioned to the offensive and entered the center of the settlement. The map has been corrected on the basis of the video material and the Russian MOD report. On the Dobropilya direction, assault operations at the mine west of Rodinsky continue. Russian positions are converging from two sides. The facility is effectively being taken in a pincer. Northeast of Hryshin, Russian forces advanced 1.5 kilometers. Pressure on Novoalexandrivka and Serhivka continues. No cartographic changes yet, but activity in this sector is intensifying. In Vilitska, a number of sources report over half of the settlement passing under Russian control. Video materials in sufficient volume for map coloring have not yet been received. On the Kostyantinivka direction, an advance has been recorded in the southwestern part of the city. Russian forces continue movement in the space between Ilyanivka and the central districts. the Ukrainian side simultaneously published footage of artillery strikes against Russian positions in the southwestern part, which, as on other directions, serves as indirect confirmation of the advance itself. On the Sloviansk direction, footage published by Ukrainian sources from the 54th Brigade documents the movement of Russian units in the area of Zakotne, Kaliniki, and Reznikivka. Strikes against moving Russian formations on these routes simultaneously confirm the fact of the advance and indicate Ukrainian attempts to stop it. The map has been corrected accordingly. On the Middle Eastern theater, the situation has shifted across several dimensions simultaneously. Oil markets responded with a decline following Trump's statements that the United States will conclude operations within 2 to 3 weeks and withdraw. Without guaranteeing the unblocking of the Strait of Hormuz, WTI pulled back approximately 5% from the $104 level. Additional downward pressure came from the American side, lifting sanctions on a number of Russian financial assets and granting Kazakhstan and several Asian states permission to route Russian oil without restrictions. The combination of these measures temporarily calmed the market. Simultaneously, the aircraft carrier George H.W. Bush is heading to the region, the 3rd Carrier Strike Group. Combined with the Abraham Lincoln and Gerald R. Ford already present, this forms a 3-carrier grouping. According to American military doctrine, 3 carrier strike groups in a single region create an overwhelming air superiority that no regional power can withstand. The United States appears to intend to use this presence as an instrument of maximum pressure, not for a ground operation, but for a final aviation campaign capable of shifting the conflict's trajectory without committing infantry. This is consistent with the overall concept of achieving a declared victory at minimum personnel cost. Iran continues to control the Strait of Hormuz. Transit occurs exclusively by prior coordination with Tehran. The bellicose statements of the Arabian monarchies are not backed by real action. The UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Kuwait are not capable of unblocking the strait independently. Israel continues expanding its buffer zone in southern Lebanon with the objective of reaching the Litani River. A number of analysts believe the American operation against Iran will conclude synchronously with Israel achieving this line. Both processes may reach their conclusion simultaneously. April 1, 2026, recorded a qualitative leap in the scale and geography of Russian offensive operations. Simultaneous pressure on 10 directions, combined with a large-scale drone strike against western Ukraine, forms the picture of a coordinated combined arms operation, air and ground, working in unified logic. The strike against Nova Poshta Logistics in Lutsk, simultaneous advances from Sumy to Zaporizhzhia, entry into the Great Sumy Forest, the assault on the Great Siversky Donetsk Forest, all of these are elements of a single operational scheme: disrupt logistics, occupy forest corridors before foliage appears, and establish conditions for further maneuver in zones concealed from FPV observation. April is beginning in a mode of maximum combat activity not seen in recent months. Briefing compiled as of the evening of April 1, 2026. A number of data points regarding Belitska, Ry-Oleksandrivka, Kovsharivka, and the Bachevsk direction require verification as confirming materials continue to come in.